Let's fucking go. Tonight, we're talking about drones. And once again, on tonight's live stream, we're going to talk about the release of the new HDZero radio. We're going to talk about just the negativity I've seen on this. And I'm a bit confused. It's like people don't like new things that you don't have to buy. And apparently, I only say good things about HDZero. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk a bit about the P1 goggles. I've done the teardown video today. That's going to go live tomorrow. Not P1 goggles, VR1 goggles. We're going to talk about them. And a Pro Vision that has released. We're going to talk about drones and war because I don't really know how I can't talk about it. If I'm honest, there's it's a weird situation where what has happened in the last 2 weeks has really put drones all over the news and all over everything, and I don't really know. I'm just gonna turn that off a minute because that's being filtered. It really is now hard to not see, and I'm trying to carefully word my words here, but it's hard to carefully the reality is I don't know how long people like me who fundamentally disagree with it can continue that, and how long the reality of that is something we can continue to sort of have a hey, this is all horrible, because the thing, and it is all horrible, like, let's not get away from the fact that it isn't all horrible. It is absolutely all horrible, but it's hard to avoid. And the reality is, some of it is extremely interesting. I saw a video today of a drone being used to shoot down a drone that was going to kill people. And that puts a whole other slant on things, doesn't it? And you know, this is a touchy subject, and it's one I have very fundamental opinions on, and I've always been very honest about that. I don't want drones used for harm at all, but where's the line here now? And you know, we're in a whole other world than we were just 2 weeks ago. How 2 weeks things can change. How 2 weeks and how that kind of stuff has completely evolved into well, I don't know where we're at. Do you know where we're at? I don't know where we're at, because I don't really understand if we're in World War III. I don't really understand if we're at the beginnings of it. It's a complicated world. So I'm not even repeating that last comment, but yeah. Yeah, we're spiraling. And the train is on the tracks. The brakes are off, and we're downhill, wind assisted right now. And we're going to have to wait and see where this ends up, because we don't know. We just don't know. Anyway, we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about O4 Pro firmware update, a quiet release from DJI to fix some issues, which I'm going to explain, that I haven't seen and I haven't even been able to replicate. There are issues that we think, and at least our understanding is, are related to new hardware, but it isn't clear, and it may not all be related to new hardware, so we're going to talk about that as well. So I hope everyone is well. I hope everyone's had a good week. It's been an interesting week this week, that's for sure. There hasn't been too many things going on in the FPV world. Chinese New Year is always an interesting time. People, you have the companies who are sort of out, not doing anything, get everything out before it, and then push it out afterwards. And that's where we're at now. We're on the onslaught of stuff coming afterwards, which is good. Obviously, there's always stuff around the corner. That's for sure. But yeah, look, we're in that period now where we're just going to have to wait and see what happens. There hasn't really been a lot of news from any of the big brands. That's probably going to change in a little bit of time. But things are still, even with what we're now seeing, things are going to evolve. So we're just going to have to wait and see. So, someone's asked, can you start with DJI Pro? Yeah, look, it's a good subject to start with. So, this week, DJI have quietly pushed out an update, which is this one here for the O4 Pro air unit only, which is now version 01.00.05.00. And they say, fixed a black screen issue caused by occasional interruptions of video transmission signal. Now, this comes hot off the heels of an update that DJI pushed out just after Christmas, which I talked about before, that has the anti-rollback enabled, basically, which means you can't downgrade. What we thought about that firmware was the chances are it's to do with new hardware. DJI usually only introduce anti-rollback when there's new hardware or there's something fundamental that they don't want to do. We haven't really seen a teardown of new O4 Pro air units to confirm there is new hardware changes. But if you want money and a bet on money, my bet is that DJI have done something with the NAND or the RAM. If it is my suspicion. If they're going to do anything right now, it will be with the NAND or the RAM, because that's the world we're in. So I think that's possibly what they did, but we're going to have to wait and see. However, about a week ago, on my Discord, a gentleman started posting that he had an issue with his O4 Pro air unit, that it would just reset in flight. He couldn't put it in 1200 milliwatts full power and record. It would just reset and disconnect, basically. Now, I tried to test this myself, and I have not been able to replicate this on any of my O4 Pro air units. None of mine are new production. They're all old. I actually have 10 O4 Pros, and I tried it on all 410, and I couldn't reproduce it. His was a new one, but apparently he also had an older one, or a friend had an older one, which was doing it as well, with that new firmware that was released in January. So it appeared that he was having issues only with the new firmware. We have heard that there has been possibly hardware issues with the last batch of O4, but it's all rumours. But I haven't really seen a huge amount of comments or actual evidence to say there is a mass issue with the firmware itself, and it may have been just related to new production. And that's what my suspicion is. No, it completely reset the air unit with power, just reboot, I think. It would basically go into a loop. It was unflyable, unusable. Now, this firmware does appear to address that issue. Okay? That's good news number one. What we don't know, though, is how widespread this is. Was it the new firmware on random hardware doing it? Or was it the new hardware has this fault? Now, someone up here said they had an issue with their O4 and they returned it. Yours was likely as a result of this. Someone said they had an O4 that they returned. Had a new O4 Pro 2 weeks ago, kept dropping out after 10 seconds or so, sent it back, got a refund, bought another one, and it's fine. And that other one you could have got, but cut out after a short time, direct from DJI. And that direct from DJI was lightly new production as well, which is interesting. So, look, there definitely appears to have been an issue with new replacements. So the replacement from DJI Hasselblad, which could have been old stock because they're a retailer, not DJI Direct. DJI Direct are likely to send you the newest stock. Retailers are going to have existing stock. So that makes sense. If you look on your box, it'll have a production date on the bottom of it on a sticker, if I'm right. On the sticker on your box, if you still got it, it will have a production date. So that actually makes sense. Now, I think this problem, personally, I think it is directly related to new hardware only. That is my suspicion. I can't prove it, but all of the evidence that I have is that it's new hardware. Whilst I've heard my mate also has this on his old hardware, my mate isn't evidence. I go by what is in hand, prove it's doing it. And that is what I go with. So, if you've got an O4 Pro, what I would say is this. Whatever firmware you're currently on, as long as it's working fine, there is no reason to upgrade. There was no good reason to upgrade to the new firmware in January or February when it released. There is no good reason to upgrade to this if you're having problems. Okay? There's no new features, no fixes. There's just no reason to change. What you can't, though, do is downgrade now if you get a new air unit. But I would still just fly the new air unit with the new firmware and your old air units with the old one. So, pre-Christmas, yeah. So, look, I wouldn't rush to upgrade. But if you have an O4 Pro air unit and it is boot looping, it is losing signal, it is not behaving as it should be, try updating to this new firmware. That will most likely resolve the issue. If you do have this problem, though, I would be intrigued to understand the production date on your AU. Is it... I don't really care about the box, but if you say I've had it 3 months or I've had it 6 months, that tells me a lot. Is it 2026 production is what I'm intrigued about. Now, the reality with this is we might only now start to see this filter through. Because if it was new hardware, it will take time to get through the retail chains. And that'll now pop up over the next few weeks and months. If you do get a brand new O4 Pro today, I would check the production date. If the production date is pre-2026, I think you'll be fine. I wouldn't even bother updating. Post-2026, you might want to update. Someone says, does the O4 issue only happen in FCC mode? We don't have enough data. I can't tell you because I can't make it happen. Even the information we had was very loose. You know, it was my O4 unit is rebooting. We don't have enough validated technical information to be able to tell you exactly what is going on. What is clear is there definitely appears to have been something going on. I tested the whole pack on an open field, but the reboot first got triggered later on the actual spot where high power was needed. Yeah, It appears related to high power because they could trigger it on the bench by forcing it into 1200 milliwatt mode and setting recording. So, yeah. Occasional interruptions of the transmission signal. Yeah, look, it does somewhat tell you how bad it was for this firmware to have been pushed. That in Chinese New Year, weird how they pushed the firmware in Chinese New Year. That does indicate how bad it probably was from a DJI perspective. So look, that's the reality. Oh, cup of tea's arrived. One moment. I've got the salt course in the way. I need something to put this on. They're all on the latest available. But what was the production date, No Flow? These ones were being powered from a power supply. So this was tested on a power supply. It wasn't even a quad. I am absolutely confident there is an issue. I am absolutely confident there is an issue. And I personally think it was new production only. Will they finally fix the camera jello issue with their cameras? It's not really an issue. It's just a result of the setup. It's hard mounted. It needs soft mounting. The resonance frequency, I don't really think it's fixable. It's just the nature of the beast. There are serious transmission issues. Yeah, see, people have been... Look, there's been whispers about issues. So, look, that's it. The good news is there's a firmware update. Yeah, and it's quite unusual for DJI to even write what it was as well. So, yeah. Cool. So, that's the DJI thing. Pretty good. Nice to see it. Who knew? I'm glad they fixed it. Yeah, from 2024. Yeah. I'm glad they fixed it. DJI is on top of their crap these days, to be fair to them. They really are on top of their crap. Okay, so, next thing I'm going to talk about is this. And that is... Oh, that's a thumbnail there. I should have done the thumbnail like that. I like that. This is the new HDZero radio. And I'm... Obviously, this launched this week. It's a budget FPV radio. Designed for people who want to start out, beginners, people who just want a simple radio, people who want a radio that they can throw around. And yeah, look, costs about $60. It's good. It's decent. For the price, I have no complaints. What I was a bit surprised at, though, on this radio was the amount of sort of hate I got in the video. And let me just adjust the exposure. About sort of a couple of things on this radio. There's a bunch of people who were going, what is the point of this? Completely pointless. If it's not got Edge TX, it's not going to be any good for fixed wing. Really? Was anyone telling you that this was a great radio for fucking fixed wing? Is my response to that. At any point, was there any commenter going, you know what, if you're sitting here and wanting to fly this with that amazing Chapito, this is the radio for you? What? So, no, it's not a fixed wing radio. The next complaint was about the fact it has potentiometers on the gimbals and non-adjustable gimbals. Since when do people need adjustable gimbals on a mini gimbal? It's not an AGO1 sized radio where you've got 16 foot of stick throw. It is literally... wait a minute. How much fucking stick throw do we actually have on this radio? Let's measure it, shall we? You've got... Let's go from the middle there. It's 35 millimeters of stick throw. Who needs manual adjustment on 35 mils of throw? Then people were complaining that it's got pots. I didn't realise we're not allowed to use potentiometers in radios anymore. Sorry, I forgot that they are completely banned and technology from the 50s. Pots are fine. And in fact, in many cases, pots are better than hall sensors. Because for those who don't know, if you fly anywhere where there is temperature differences, hall sensors will cause you problems. Hall sensors will drive you mad if there is any way that you're using them. So it really isn't as simple as saying, hall are bad, hall are good, and potentiometers are bad, or hall are bad. For the radio size and cost, it's fine. Most bloody gamepad controllers you still have on your Xboxes, your freaking PlayStations, they're all potentiometers. You only get the hall sensors with the expensive pots. Like, come on. Jesus. So yeah, look, is it the most feature-rich radio in the world? No. Does it have some nice little features that make it different from the other radios on the market? Absolutely. Does it have a module bay? No. Does it have HTX? No. But the reality is here, it is a radio that is designed for beginners and new users. It sits somewhat between the Pocket and the T8L. And okay, the Pocket can be got for not that much more than this radio at times on deals. I will agree that. But then again, the Pocket isn't as small as this, and the Pocket is a phenomenal radio. But just take into account that you can't expect HDZero to be competing with the likes of Radiomaster on volume or pricing. If you think that HDZero should be the same as Radiomaster, I'm sorry, you're mad. The truth is, there is a reason why I have always accepted on this channel smaller niche manufacturers are costing more. Here's a great example of that. Kiss Ultra, $80, $90 flight controller. There are loads of people who will say, oh, that's a lot more expensive than the $35 one I can get from AliExpress. Yes, it is. But you are paying for a lower volume, more niche, more customer-focused product. The new Kiss Ultra ESC, the FETEC ESCs, the, I forgot the name of them, they'll come to me in a minute, that Kiss Ultra used to be partnering with. All of this stuff. It's FPV frames. Voltara, it's FPV frames. Motors. Look, when you're getting products from a smaller company, you are paying more. That is okay. That isn't bad. Not everything has to price match what is being sold in the market by the big gorilla, the big player. And more than anything, you know, that's really my point. It's not the greatest radio in the world. It's not the worst radio in the world. It's good. And it has a couple of nice little features over the T8L. The fact it has a proper antenna on the top, not the little pitch one. And look, for many people, the Pocket might be a better buy. I completely agree. The Pocket is a great radio. A great radio. But it doesn't mean there isn't a place in the market for this. And that's my point, more than anything. So I'm having a whinge. But yeah, look, it's a good little radio. What more is there to say than that? And people go, the beta, but you can get the BetaFPV Lite radio for about the same money. But here's one reason you shouldn't buy the BetaFPV Lite radio, because it isn't supported officially by the Express ELRS project. It is, remember, the Lite Radio 4 is not supported by Express ELRS. This has an official target. I'm led to believe 200 milliwatts on the HDZero. 250, in fact. Sorry, 250. 250 milliwatts. Proper antenna inside, not just a little PCB antenna. Easy to use. What's not to like? Can you get cheaper radios? Yeah, T8L is really good for the money. Look, it might not be for everyone, but Jesus, it doesn't mean companies can't make products, guys. You know, why did they bother? Look, someone just made an interesting comment, and I agree with. Someone said HDZero should concentrate on making a DVR. I actually agree we need a DVR for the HDZero system. But then again, and I will just add this, HDZero have the numbers on how many freestyle VTXs they're selling, and does it warrant it? How big is HDZero in the freestyle market? Who knows? I don't know for sure. So look, it really is a bit of a rant on that, but look, it's a nice radio, and it's got some nice features. The bind button is really great. Once you start using it, you realize how good an external bind button is. Gimbals are quite nice and solid. You can fit HDZero into this, minis, if you want to. Nanos, sorry, is it minis or nanos? Nanos. You can fit HDZero nanos into this. If you want to, they could be modified and go in. The sizing is the same. Has a built-in battery. Look, would have I liked 18650s and stuff like that? Maybe, yeah, but $60 radio. You could throw it around. Yeah, it's absolutely good enough. It is absolutely good enough. It's as simple as that. And I do like the machine's stainless steel stick ends. HDZero Mini, but who spends more money on gimbals than a radio? And it comes with a case as well. Yeah. You know. What's not to like? So, $60. It's all right. I did lots. Says yeah, we've all been there. $55 global price. Yeah. Someone has asked a question. Off topic. Did SkyZone address the latency issue on the O4 Pro? Are they likely to fix it? Firmware update, or should I just sell my goggles? This analog firmware thing is rolling on. The guys put out another video on the HDO2 Pluses, I think it is. My problem is I can't really talk on this because I've not tested this for myself. I don't really know how much of an issue this really is. I would love to test this. If there's anyone in the UK who's got a set of SkyZone O4Os or O4X Pros, HDO Pluses I'd even borrow. I'd love to test this myself. I'm not going to go and buy a set to test this. I'm not spending $300 or $400 on a set of goggles to test this. I have the HDZero analog goggles, which are phenomenal, and I have a set of SkyZone O4Xs, which I basically don't use anymore. I use the HDZeros. As for this issue, I have not seen enough data to really understand what is going on. Here's an example. The first thing I want to see in this, take the Sky Zones. I want to see the results with the SkyZone module, with a third-party module, and with a non-combining module as well, right? The most basic of analog module that exists. I want to understand, first of all, where is the issue? Is the issue in the combining module, the pipeline, the displays? We need to understand it. We also need to make sure that once you've done the testing, is the data really true? So here's an example. You've got two kinds of latency when you're measuring it. You've got first pixel and full frame. So the display buffering up latency, buffering up a frame to add latency isn't particularly shocking in itself. The question here is there a breakdown between the analog sync and the display? Is that completely gone out the window and that's what's going on here? Because remember, in analog you have a sync pulse, which syncs the display readout to the camera, the display readout to the camera readout, or the read-in, whichever way you want to think it. But I don't know in these digital goggles how much work is being done to synchronize that. Or are the frames completely independent and we're getting this catch-up? So look, there's a lot we would need to understand before publishing this. V-sync, horizontal sync, yeah. You need to make sure everything is synchronized, and we need a lot of testing is needed. And you have to be careful. And I've been on the receiving side of this, having done it. And I've learnt my lessons a little bit in this. I was one of the people... Look, I've done more latency testing on FPV gear than probably anyone else on the planet. That isn't an exaggeration. That is a fact. Okay? I have 1,000 frames a second camera. I have latency results for every digital FPV system that exists. I've tested a bunch of analog systems, every version of HDZero. I have so much latency data that I've never even published. It's insane. I show some of this on the wiki. You know, if we go onto the FPV wiki, there's a bunch of this on the wiki when you start looking at the systems. So when we go down into here, and there's a section for latency. So if we go into DJI and we start talking about, you know, where is it here? DJI FPV latency testing. These charts aren't even up to date. The latest data is all over the place. You know, if you look at DJI, I've tested the latency in every mode in DJI that exists. On the older stuff, the newer stuff. I need to find a year to be able to try and update this. I've done more latency testing than anyone. And I'm now a lot more reluctant to just run and shout, oh my god, I found an issue, than I have in the past. You have to be careful because it's easy to trip over yourself. I was one of the people that posted about HDZero's latency in the early days, and that caused some problems. I'm not saying the person who's doing the testing is wrong, and I'm not saying their findings are wrong. I want to see the data myself, off my own testing, is the term I'd use. And the question here is, are people now complaining about this because they've read it, or are people complaining about this because they're feeling it? And I don't know where we're at. I just don't know. When you get sensational videos saying analog is getting worse and stuff, and people read it, you get the internet whipped up. Are people really unhappy about this, or are they unhappy about this now they're being told it's a possible problem? As for, has SkyZone done anything about it? No, but they've been on Chinese New Year. I don't know any of the guys at Sky Zone. I messaged them a long time ago. I don't have a relationship with them at all, so it's not even really something I can comment on myself. They have their own Facebook group where people have posted about it, so they will see it. I can tell you now, Sky Zone Daniel, I think it is one of them. They have their Facebook group. So, look, they'll know about it, but there hasn't been anything. If we look on Sky Zone group, desktop view. So here's the Sky Zone group. Antennas. He's got a problem with his goggles. He's on about shipping. He's got a problem. He's got a problem. He's got a problem. I'm not really seeing that many people. Okay, here's that post about it. Okay, so 23rd of February. 23 comments. Is there anything on here from Sky Zone? Let's just go newest. Following for updates. It's interesting. That's a reliable source. All I'll say is that is a reliable source. That is interesting. I hadn't seen that until now. Trust me. That may. Look, there's no comments from Sky Zone on it. But look, people aren't really getting too bent out of shape. You know, look, they'll see it in returns if they're having problems. And it just seems to be, yeah, straightforward, you know. Look, would I recommend you buy these goggles based on this? No. But I think, I know, look, JB is a huge fan of the O4 Pro. He still recommends them as a good goggle. Look, for me at the moment, to recommend analog goggles is hard. HDO Vision 1s are alright. HDO Vision 2s, I wouldn't upgrade to the HDO 2s. The HDZero goggle is somewhat what the HDZero Vision 2 is what I recommend for everyone now. As a, like, if you're getting into analog and you want an option for digital. They are more expensive than anything else. But, I find it hard. If we look in the UK, right, just UK pricing. The Sky Zone O4X Pro in the UK. What are they on Hobby RC? O40 Pro is 334 quid. Yeah, HDZero Box Pro, yeah. Orcas are still a thing. The Orcas are a good goggle. They're just so expensive. The Orca's still a good goggle. The Orca is absolutely still a good goggle. If we... FPV1 pilots, sold out. It's interesting. You can't get the FPV1 pilots. Interesting. Have they only got the races in stock? No, the races... Oh, there you go, look. I think that tells you everything that's going on in the world, ladies and gentlemen. think that tells you. Can we get them anywhere else? They're in stock at Hobby RC. What about Unmanned Tech? I don't. What about thing? Your FPV. I don't know what thing's got in stock. Goggles wise, let's have a look what he's got. FPV. Search for goggles. Not many goggles. Should we go in stock? And can we go price high to low? Oh, let's go at least 370 quid. What we got? Yeah, he's not got many analogs in stock. But look, for me, if we go to goggles, 300. To be fair, right, 300 quid isn't too shocking. HDZero Plus, 473. Can't recommend them anymore. Cannot recommend them today. At all. HDZero goggles 2, 571 including VAT. It's a great deal. FPV1 Pilot, 628. Can we price this high to low? Because that'll sort the goggles. Goggles X are not a great analog goggle the way you got to put the module on top. I don't really recommend it. Probably, look, one of the simplest answers is the Box Pro. Orca's 628. How's that price high to low? Skies an O4X Pros, 503 quid. If the tests are correct, 30 milliseconds of latency is bad. It is, but then again, most people don't realise some cameras are adding 20 milliseconds of latency. So again, we need more data. 452-degree field of view on these goggles. Look at that. That's incredible. Didn't realise the field of view was that big. Orca's a good goggle. If I was going to test, but 334 quid. Look, I'd love someone to if someone wants to lend me a pair to test, we'll get them back and we'll get it sorted and we'll try and understand. But right now, I don't really know what I would recommend as an analog goggle user today. I'm almost tempted to say is just go dead cheap. If you can't go like the HDZero, go dead cheap. I don't even know what Fat Shark are selling these days, ignoring the HDO. No module with Orca though. No, agreed. Even though considering they're part of Immersion RC. It's like, hello. Can you not make a module to throw in? Shot by category. Oh, I hate this website. I'm just going to search for FPV goggles. Not a lot in stock, is there? Price, highest. Okay, so Dominator HDO 2.1 out of stock. There really is no choice at the moment, is there? Oh, for racing it matters. Look, there's no question about that. I'm more talking the average person. Hey, you can get the Sky Zone goggles for $599. The iFloat goggles. Did I say Sky Zone? The iFlight goggles for $599. O4X version 2 OLEDs. What's the version 2? Okay. Is there a button to say, only show me what's in stock? O40 Pro. What? Are they charging $506 for O40 Pro? Yeah, most of the racers using the HDZeros now. Agreed. Wow, there's some price in here, isn't there? Huh? How is this price high to low? Because this is all over the place. Am I on... next page. Hey, you can get a set of V2 goggles. What? Why have they still got the V2 goggles on their fucking website? Do they not take anything off their website at all or what? Get FPS tariff pricing. Yeah, that's a point. Fucking hell. Some of this stuff hasn't existed for years. So, look, there's no real news on it. We don't really know. That's the truth. Something else I just wanted to mention this week is a radio. Something we saw on my Discord earlier. Another radio I did see pop up. Apparently, we have something new from Hello Radio RC. I'm just going to pop this on the screen when it finally arrives. They have the V12 CNC Max Brown Gold Edition. Looking a lot like the Fly Sky, which I've got down here. Interesting. You're seeing a lot more radios from these appear. I've not tried one. I've not tested one. You got the V12, which is this little handset series, which is available in lots of pretty colours. You've got the V14, which was one of the first radios we saw from them. The V16, which I think we all know what that is. And then you got the V16R, which basically looks like... It almost looks like Radio Master have sold the molds for the past version of the TX16. And because remember, Radio Master have a new mold now. It's like Radio Master sold the mold and someone has bought it. That's what it looks like to me. Recoup costs, yeah. What is the price for these? I don't know. It's like any of this stuff. Trying to find it is impossible. So the V16. So, AliExpress. $150, £149 in the UK for the V16 Max. That's to the UK. Let's go for US dollar pricing. Convert. Gonna cost a lot of money. So you're talking 200 dawa. $200. The V12 Max seems to have Gemini and X-band on board. Yeah, it does appear to have... So if you look down here, the Max, Express ELRS dual band on both of these, which will be the first radio in this class that I can think of has that. Oh, look at the back of that. Look at the heatsink in there. And a module bay. Is it an internal antenna or an external antenna if that's crossband? Looks to be 2 fans as well, look. 1 on each side. 1 watt of power. Internal and external on the Max. Internal only on the V12. So how much is that costing? V12 CNC Max. V12 CNC Max. What are they charging? Does it even exist? Hello Radio V12. I can't even find it. Hello Radio V12 CNC. See if we can even find it. Can't even find it. Yeah, a couple of people are talking about it, but I don't seem to be able to see it anywhere. Don't seem to be able to buy it anywhere. You can't buy from their website either. You can telephone them if you want to order one. There you go. There doesn't really seem to be a great amount of availability of their products at all at the moment. Don't really know much about them, if I'm honest. What I will say is this. Up until now, I've not really seen anything interesting. This is probably the first interesting radio that I have seen. It's doing things differently. This might be the first interest. What fucking antenna? What is that antenna? What? Have they literally screwed on? Is that gonna be? Is that what? Do you know what? I will say, so the CNC gimbals. What is that antenna they're including? My God. Really? I'm suspicious. Is this coming out the same factory as the Fly Sky? There are elements of this that smell of the Fly Sky. It's not the same, but it does make you wonder. Look, if this is reasonably priced, this is Hello Kitty Sky. This will be the first dual band radio of this size, as someone said earlier. But it's a dual band antenna, but it looks like a receiver antenna. What are the other colors we get? Oh, wow. Whoa. Wow. Look at that. Xbox controller color. Hello. Wow, that is sharp. That is a great looking radio. If your favorite company is Fisher-Price. However, that is a color. I have to say, I quite like it. I'm not sure about the red. I'd like to see it with the black, but wow. That is some color. And yes, that's the Hello Kitty edition there. Do you know what? I quite like that. I quite like that. I'm gonna admit it. I don't like the antenna, but you can change that. Gives me Temu vibes, for sure. The graphic shows more colors than are on the website. LR1121, yeah, so look, it's LR1121. So it's not Gemini X, it's Gemini. H7. Why am I getting the feeling this feels a lot like FreeSky? Dual fans? 21700s, nice to see. Charging, upgrade, simulator, data transfer. Honestly, this radio really stinks of the FlySky. Yes, you got all... Ooh, the gold. Look at the gold. Ooh, oh my gosh. Do you know what? Makes you wonder who's behind these. Because that, I tell you what, that looks an awful lot like the FlySky. Which is a great radio, I will add. I tell you what is a bit disappointing on it, before we move on, is the screen. I wish the screen was a little bit bigger. I don't like having a border around the screen. Why couldn't they... That would have been... That's a bit of a disappointment. Every time I see a border like that, I always feel I got the cheap version. Because that tells me there was going to be a version with a bigger screen, but I couldn't afford it. And that's usually what that makes me feel like. You know, you see stuff with like a big hole and little square in the middle for the display. Interesting product. Fisher-Price screen as well. Yeah. So that's pretty much the product talk for this week. I've got the teardown coming tomorrow on the BetaFPV VR4. For those who don't know, BetaFPV have also slid out a pro version of the VR4. For an extra $10, you get removable antennas and you can have DisplayPort output. VR4. Search for it, it's easier because the BetaFPV website's a bit of a nightmare. Now, they didn't tell me about this, I didn't know anything about this, but the VR4 goggles for the ArtLink system, they've now got a HD and a HD Pro. So the difference between the HD and the HD Pro is $10, and for that $10, you get removable antennas, so they have SMAs on them now, rather than being fixed. So if I look at the image, I can't look at the image. They've added removable antennas. is the easiest term I'll use. Where do they show it? You can see that there's little thumb screws on one of the image. There, you can see they've added thumb screws. So the antennas are now removable, and they have added DisplayPort output, allowing you to use it with the DisplayPort to HDMI adapter. And that has been added to the Pro as well. Now, there has been some questions on, well, can this be added to the normal ones with a firmware update? My suspicion is no. My bet is there is additional hardware. Today, I've done the full teardown in the VR1s. Let me just find the images. In fact, I'll go straight into the SD card because it is still plugged into the computer. So on this, where's the picture? So this is a picture of, that's a picture of the top of the board in the BetaFPV goggle. So you've got this module in the middle, which they are clearly buying in from Cap, which is the big module soldered to the board in the middle. You've got your main PCB here, but I'm not seeing any display port compatibility. Usually you'd have a chip. I don't even think the HDMI is wired enough for it. If you look, there's only 2 USB lanes on that. That's... yeah, there's literally 2 lanes there. Or 3 lanes. There's no what looks like DisplayPort mode. Nothing on the other side. The other side of the board is basically blank. We hop over to that one there. That's the other side of the board. All you've got on the back is a cutout for programming. You've just got some data lines for the SD card, and then you've got some power regulation up here and the display connection and stuff. But yeah, there's very, very little going on in these goggles. Clearly, they're buying in the module from Cap, whoever this Cap is. Someone said, when is a VRX module coming? There is no evidence they are making a VRX module. I asked BetaFPV this week, and they have been very clear in saying that they are not announcing anything. They are taking all feedback to the R&D team. I know there is someone posting around saying, I spoke to BetaFPV and they said they're making a VRX. They refused to give me an answer this week, even behind closed doors. So I don't, regardless of what someone is saying, there is zero evidence they're making a VRX module right now. Their response to me was very straightforward. Very simple. I'm not convinced they're going to do it. I will read you what I was told. I asked 2 people at BetaFPV, I will add as well. My question was very simple. Is there plans for a VRX module for ArtLink from BetaFPV? We get the plan on new products with ArtLink, but all is underway. If you have any ideas or expectations, please share and I will discuss it with our team, but nothing is confirmed. So, that's it. Something else which is rather disturbing is around this start RC unit. Basically, you cannot get VTXs for this, as far as we can tell. So at the moment, this is a dead-end system. Complete waste of time, because you can't get VTXs. You can buy the kit, but you can't buy the modules. One of the guys on my Discord has been asking them, and they've not even said they're going to sell the modules, which just seems insane to me. This is a dead product before it even begins. We do have the internal pictures of this now as well. And again, they're again using that same VRX module. When you look inside this unit, right, they're using the same VRX module here, look, as BetaFPV's using. It's all off the shelf from whoever this cap is, we believe, who is probably Artisan. But yeah, so they've got their board with their soldering the module to. BetaFPV have their board with their soldering the module to. At the moment, these companies are not making a digital FPV system. They're distributing a digital FPV system. And that's the thing to understand. All they're doing is making a product around it based on what is already here. The one big difference is, like, compared to Cadex, Cadex are making their own boards. Just to give you an idea, this is the Cadex Ascent goggle, and Cadex are completely laying out their own PCB. What I will say about Cadex is they are designing their own gear, or at least they're paying someone to design it for them. It's also worth noting that there is SRAM on Cadex, which you don't have on the BetaFPV products or the other one. You got the main SoC and then SRAM. There is no SRAM on the other ones at all. They are using the onboard memory that is in the main SoC rather than external RAM. This will explain most likely why the BetaFPV gets really stuttery when you up the DVR bitrate, because it's probably low on RAM, is the reality. But look, Cadex are different. Cadex are not doing things the same. Even in the VRX module, Cadex have their own board, basically. I like auto routing and the wrong rotation. Yeah. What are the chances of Cadex abandoning these as they did with Walksnail? Look, I don't know what Cadex's plans are. Cadex are Cadex, and they're their own worst enemy. Look, Cadex have made a number of promises for Avatar they still haven't fulfilled. Moonlight 2, GT2 was promised. Is that the same PCB layout as the Avatar goggles? Yes. Remember when they said you can't fit a module? Hey, I'm a hater. I'm the guy that says only bad things for no reason. It's funny how they've made the board exactly the same shape as the board in the goggles L and the board in the goggles X. Just saying. Funny that. Not upgradable though. But yeah, Cadex are doing their own thing. As for Cadex products, look, they haven't delivered the Moonlight 2. They haven't delivered the GT2. Avatar is largely stagnant. I'm not going to say abandoned, but stagnant. Cadex appear to have this new VRX. This new VTX Ascent Pro, which, look, people are Thomas is posting all about it on YouTube on his rover. Makes you wonder why he's showing this on a rover and not in a plane or a thing. One of the testers is posting video I can't remember what it is. Ascent VTX. Does it come up? Where is it? He's been posting videos on Rover, radio control car. I can't find it. I'm trying to find his channel and I'm going to struggle now. Why can't I find it? He posted some early videos on Ascent, so let's see if they come up. Here he is, Tom. So he's been posting videos on the new GT Pro. You know, he's got it on a Rover car. I'm intrigued why we're not seeing it in the air. It still has the same image quality garbage going on from the look of it. If we just go full screen a minute, it looks like there's two hedgerows there, but that could be in the distance. But yeah, he's posting video on a car, which is interesting, but it's like impossible to get any idea of what the image quality is like when it's doing that. I've what? Hedge. You know, you're not gonna really get an indication of the I don't know how much he shows. Is he showing it at all? No, he's literally just driving it. Yeah, look. Oh, yeah, it's hard to really get an opinion of anything to do with it when it's like that. I don't know what else we have. Like, it's not turning up anyway, this GT Pro. It's like, where is it? Do you know what I mean? Where is it? Why is it not for sale? Cadex Ascent GT Pro. It's I almost wonder if Cadex have actually now given up on the consumer market and it's all going into the Far East. I actually wonder if they've given up because the products aren't coming out. There's no Moonlight 2. There's no GT2, which were both promised. There's no... This just doesn't seem to exist. They've promised 2 VRXs. We haven't seen the other one. We're not really seeing... Look, it's available to buy in places if you know where to look. But I don't really know what's going on with them, if I'm honest. You know, they may, again, remember, and this is where I am critical and why I'm critical. They're the ones who made the promises. They are the ones that said these things. Not me. Cadex. Cadex were the ones that said it. No one forced them into it. I'm trying to find the post. No one forced them into it. No one said, you've got to do this. They're the ones who had announced these things. I can't find the post. And then they haven't come. So, you know, look, no one else in FPV that I know has had this record of broken promises that we get from Cadex. Hey, we're going to release this. It never turns up. Hey, you know, the one company behind that was Orca with digital. And I think Orca just found it a lot harder. So, you know, I don't know. It's not that I hate Cadex. I absolutely don't. In fact, I think Avatar is a great product. I wish they'd put more emphasis behind it. I never wanted an Avatar 2. I never asked for an Avatar 2. I was more than happy with Avatar. I get the idea of Ascent if it worked properly. It doesn't. Until it does work properly, it won't get a recommendation from me. I talked about DJI O4 Pro at the start. So, yeah, we're just going to have to wait and see. What I will say is, I am deeply... Well, no, I'm not. I'm where I said I was going to be. When all of this digital FPV started, these new systems, I did say I wasn't convinced any of this was good. And I said fragmentation, VTXs you can't get. Everything I thought was going to happen is currently happening. And where I'm really disappointed is the one company who is doing their own thing and developing hardware is Cadex, but even they're not really coming out with stuff fast enough. We're not getting much happen in their world at all, you know. So look, let's wait and see. But so far, you know, ArtLink is great. It works phenomenal. I'm not convinced BetaFPV are a company who are going to become the next Cadex. I'm not remotely convinced that BetaFPV are going to make more products. I even think BetaFPV's words of it's compatible in this ArtLink ecosystem was a hint that others would need to do stuff. You know, I'm not remotely convinced you're going to see BetaFPV do a VRX, another 3 VTXs, and you get gimbals. You know, everything we saw with Cadex. You have to congratulate Cadex on the ecosystem they built for Avatar. As fragmented as it is at times, they built an incredibly good ecosystem. I don't think you're going to get that from BetaFPV. I certainly don't think you're going to get it from Start RC or HGLRC either. All of these companies are going to try and sell you a one-trick pony that works with what they want it to do, and that's it. If you think of BetaFPV, great company, but they're selling a lot of cheaper low-end drones. What this has given them is a cheap way of getting digital into their drones so they can sell their drones with digital. I don't think BetaFPV are really interested in making us VTXs with DVRs on board and better cameras and night cameras and gimbals. I just don't think any of that is going to happen. The one company who could do that is Cadex, and they've balked it. And what they've delivered is, in comparison, trash. If you compare ArtLink to Ascent, it is trash. Honestly, I love where ArtLink is at. I'm really gutted where Ascent is at, because Ascent gives me the hardware, ArtLink gives me the functionality and how it works. If we could just have it the other way around, we would be spot on. So, look. That's my thoughts on that. Okay. The next subject, and I'm not going to spend too long on this. Someone asked about the DJI cameras. I want to know about these 35 modules. Every module for O4 is genuine. No one else makes cameras, but they may not calibrate with your drone. They're usually either pulled from damaged drones and air units, or they're black market sourced. They're official because no one makes a third-party one, but they don't calibrate. Cadex had a rollout of new products at CES, but nothing. They announced a load of stuff, but nothing's actually available. If you got a Cadex, show me anything Cadex released at CES. We're on the Cadex website, right? Show me, right, let's look for all of the new products that Cadex announced at CES. We have Avatar Goggles X, Goggles L. We have the Avatar VTXs, all the same stuff. GT, Moonlight, no Moonlight 2. Ascent Light, VRX and Goggles, everything we've had already. HD cameras for the Avatar system. VTX modules. GT VTX, receiver, and repeater. Cadex might have said, hey, we're coming out with another pink pony in a sparkly dress, yet fucking vaporware. But soon they're going to want to sell you a new set of goggles that work with both systems. And everyone will tell you how good they are. Except me. I'll tell you what they're like. And if they're good, I'll tell you they're good. And if they're not, I'll tell you they're not. I've only smashed 13 O4 Pro. O4 Pro is really not ideal for bando bashing. I do see people talking about this with their cameras. O4 is really not good for bando bashing. It's a bit expensive if you're crashing a lot. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is, well, I don't really want to talk about it, but we don't have a lot of choice. Obviously, in the last 2 weeks, things around the world have taken a little bit of a turn. And drones. Look, our hobby, what was our hobby, is suddenly more than ever in the focus, the spotlight of the world. And more than ever, we are seeing drones being used for bad things. But we're also seeing, frankly, some what I call good and ingenious use of drones to stop the drones doing bad things. And that I actually support. And look, I've had a very clear stance on this channel that I don't support the use of drones for harm. I don't support in any shape or form. And companies who openly advertise this, I certainly don't support on a daily basis. I think it's a reality that finding companies who don't is almost going to be impossible, but I still don't change my stance on, as an example, Rotor Riot, Red Cat, Unusual Machines, and that love triangle. And what I mean by that is this. Rotor Riot has been a channel which has been a force for amazing good in FPV, trying to bring in new and young users into drones, into model aircraft, and they've done an incredibly good job. And where I fundamentally have a problem is then the guy who's in the office next door, he's advertising his drone for strike capabilities that could be used to kill such child, who they've advertised, hey, this is a great thing to be in. And where I have a fundamental issue is playing both sides. This is where the problem for me is. If you take Orca as an example, Orca do have a very big military arm. And yes, do I think it is naive to think they don't use some of them for harm? Of course that's naive. But they don't sit there and say, hey, we're building drones to kill people. And that is the fundamental difference between what Red Cat, Rotor Riot, Unusual Machines group had said and what others are doing. And I still fundamentally have that stance. You know, I think Sean Rotor Riot, if he's still there, I don't know, a few people have left. I don't know who the pilots are. I know JB is no longer a Rotor Riot pilot through his own choice. He has a video on that if you're interested in seeing it. He discussed it, you know, based around people's opinions and feedback, and like, all the power to JB. I would never criticize. Look, I did do something a bit silly once, but I'm not going to do that now, as I don't criticize the people for being involved. But what I criticize is the business and the company now. And I did criticize people before, and that was an error, and I've apologized for that, and I still think I was wrong on that. I shouldn't have gone after the people. You go after the company, not the people themselves. So I don't wish anything against, you know, whoever the current pilots are, Riot. All power to them. I wish them all the very best. Each person's going to make their own mind up. Where I have a fundamental issue is going, hey kids, this is a great hobby, and then the guy in the office next door is making something to kill those kids. That is where I have a problem now. But the truth is this: we are now in a situation where it is going to be incredibly hard to avoid discussion or seeing the use of drones in war. You know, there are elements that from a technical perspective I do find interesting when you see some of the stuff that's coming out over that period. About, they're saying $35,000 some of these aircraft cost to build. You know, they've got proper engines on the back. With the world now has a problem is, for the last 40, 50 years, we've built up a system where we want to fire 5, 10, 15, $20 million ordnance. But suddenly you're firing $5, $10, $15 million ordnance to take out a $35,000 drone. And that math is a problem. You know, we were building, everyone in the world was building weapons to blow up bigger weapons, ICBMs, intercontinental missiles, things like that. Oh, a $15 million weapon to destroy a nuke makes complete sense. The new world is $35,000 drones causing huge amounts of harm, and you're having to fire £15 million anti-missile systems a pop to take them out. And I think everyone's been caught with their pants down on this, if I'm honest. From a global problem, everyone has been caught with their pants down. And now we are about to see, and be ready for this, and this is my warning to the FPV community, a huge amount of interest in how you stop these $35,000 aircraft. And the reality of that is gonna filter down to them stopping us as well. So be prepared. We are going to face problems. We are going to face problems. And it has been highlighted on a level. Everything up until now had been in Ukraine. Now you're seeing this spread across the Middle East. The game has changed in a week. And you've seen the footage if you've been watching it. These aircraft, these drones coming in at low level. We have suddenly got very visible. And just as an example, our lovely Chapito If someone today saw this flying over their heads in some of these countries, people would be diving for cover. And that wasn't the case 2 weeks ago. Remember, 2 weeks ago, people would have just gone, oh, is that someone flying an RC radio-controlled plane? Now, people are going to think it's trying to kill them. And it's not because of this specifically, it's the reality of what has changed. And I don't really like talking about this stuff, but I fundamentally believe the world has changed in the last 2 weeks. And we're going to feel it. We're just going to feel it. In the end, all I do is wish everyone everyone's going to die for cover when flat chat stand flu is on. Everyone used to yeah, it's a different world. I did see something incredible, quite incredible today. I saw a drone shooting down another drone, like a 7 or 10 inch shooting down another drone that was going to cause harm, which I thought was incredibly interesting, but not good, people. Not good at all. Flying drones is prohibited until April. What country is that? Eastern part of the country. I would expect police stopping me when I fly my thing, saying, Hungary, yeah. Do you remember countries using eagles to take down drones? Yeah. Yeah, and maybe they'll be using the Sky Zone with all that latency. Yeah. Yeah, look, it's... What we're seeing on it is on just another level to what we did before. Here in Italy is already quite controversial. Yeah, look, before it was contained to Ukraine. Now it's not. And it's sad. And that's the truth. And I really wish there was good news. The truth is there isn't. I just hope all of this mess gets sorted out fairly quickly. And I hope there's no long-lasting effects for everyone involved. There'll already be long-lasting effects for the people who've died. Have I seen Julian Corey's interview? No. You're welcome. You're welcome. Someone needs to do a tune to that. We're hungry, I think he said. In Argentina, however, we're living la vida. We're so far away from it all. Ukraine showed us how important is drones. Yes, I think Ukraine showed something. I don't really think the world was paying full attention. We were. Here's the big difference. In Ukraine, we all saw this. And a small number of people covered it. You know, there's been some, news coverage. But overall, it's been fairly low-key. So Ukraine showed us where this could head. And the people in the know. Iran and the others has now shown everyone else. And that's the difference to me. And that's the problem. So look. But yeah, look, for those who haven't seen, JB did say he'd left Rotor Riot, which shame for them. Doesn't affect me, but JB was always... I haven't watched a Rotor Riot video personally for a very long time. I don't know if anyone here has. I've heard it's been slanting a certain way, is the term I'll use. I think the last one I saw was fiber optic. He just said due to some of the negative around their relationship with the other companies, basically. I haven't really watched, but yeah, I know someone commented on my Discord that right seems to have had a bit of a slant towards these days. Yeah, JB's it's other than that, look, you're gonna see the drone industry. You don't get to know. Monstech, Reno A4 Pro on sale for $250. You said in the prior stream that you were thinking about buying a set. Would like to know, I can't remember which one this was. Rotor charges tariffs. So, look, that's that. And now it's time for a quick Q&A. If anyone has any questions, now's the time to put them in the chat. So, Reno A4 Pro. Oh, that's the goggles, wasn't it? No, I never did. I don't know which remotes they work with. Glasses, not goggles. I still am leaning on something like this to try. They're just a bit expensive. Look, it's money I'll never get back in a video. I'm certainly intrigued. Bang & Olufsen audio. They certainly look interesting. What I don't know is, I can't remember, do these take the HDMI feed or not? Because some of these you had to have an adapter for. Is this the one you needed an adapter? I can't remember. Oh, they're on cheaper on... Why are they cheaper on their website then? Connectivity. USB HDR10 enabled charge and play. So is that a separate adapter? So they got C micro LED. See, they got the good quality micro LED displays. Compatibility on phones. App. No, they don't look like they've got HDMI. I think Arc Raiders is training the AI to put on the drones. Have you seen some of the stuff that's happening? I haven't played this week. I don't know how we get HDMI input on these. Who will buy my slightly used O4 Pro? Should start collecting the wolf packs, yeah. What about the accessories? So Ray Neo. All AR glasses. Man, the new Fireflies will chase you through the building now, I know. I swear they're freaking training AI. What about accessories? I don't think they take HDMI direct. With an adapter. Yeah, I was just trying to find where the adapter was. Question. Any idea why my BetaFPV 115 toothpick tried to fly into orbit? As soon as I touch the throttle, it's like it's in a feedback loop. Power keeps increasing until I disarm. Only happens in acro. Gyro's okay. Sounds like... So, if... As soon as I touch the throttle, it's like... So what happens when you push... Ignore the throttle... Pitch and roll. Does it try to rock correctly? If your throttle is, it either thinks it's got no props, your motor orientation is wrong, there's something setting it off. I would also check your RC input. That is your throttle progressively moving up. So go into Betaflight and have a look what your throttle is doing. Is your throttle stick progressively moving up? Frame cracked? Could be. Something is setting off Betaflight. Check in Betaflight first of all your stick movements are correct and move in the correct directions. Then check your props are on properly. Check the order is properly and the direction of your props is correct. Yeah, have you flashed the flight controller? Have you changed anything? If you flashed it, you might not have the right target on it. You might think you have, but you might not. Do I still have the Aquila batteries? Yeah, reach out to me on Discord. It's normal for motors to increase on the deck with no props. Yeah, they will step up. You'll see them just go, whew. Yeah, I know, but you can get weird stuff on small aircraft. Stall. I've seen some weird shit on small aircraft. It just starts to throttle up. I think you don't need... If you haven't got props on and you're doing it on the bench, that could be normal because it's expecting movement on the gyro where you're not moving. Are you talking about when you're trying to fly it or are you just bench testing? Is the DJI anti-rollback? I don't know. That's a good question that I can answer when I plug this air unit in. One moment. I haven't actually checked that. DJI Assistant 2. I'll tell you what versions are available when it eventually connects. Come on. Yes. Because I'm on the last version. Both versions are showing. So in theory, you can downgrade. I haven't upgraded this yet. Let's do it now. Not flashed it. Have crashed it though, replaced the camera. Does it with the props off too. Sounds like something is off. It's just doing an update to the ear unit on that last one and I'll check we can downgrade. Does it with both props on and off. Something's not right. Yeah, I think it's hardware related, personally. Agreed. I do think it's hardware related. Sticky gyro could be. Any other questions, guys? Put them in the chat right now before I finish up. We'll just test this works. It's upgrading as we speak. It doesn't fall off the bench. Nothing I can talk about. Store warning? Not really. Is 3D printing really in danger? I've seen these videos going round and I've watched one of them, and no. Frankly, no. It's all to do with they don't want people being able to print weapons, and there's some areas where they're trying to... States are trying to bring in rules against 3D printing, but it's not going to fucking happen. Radio Master Sensors, can 2 GPS modules be daisy chained? I don't know for sure. I'm assuming yes, but I don't know for sure. Yeah, Washington specifically. I read it and it was so much nonsense I couldn't be bothered. Yes, the downgrade option is there from the latest version. Yeah, look, Washington trying to ban 3D printers. It's not a ban for starters, because freaking people are talking shit. Just so you know. It's basically a block on technology, if I remember the term when I read it. And yeah, it's not going to happen. It's just don't worry about it. It's a load of fucking nonsense. That's not going to happen, is what it is. But it makes good click views, so that's why you're seeing videos on it. Just like DJI Bandit. Just trying to get in. Nonsense doesn't mean it won't happen, but what are they going to do? Stop you buying something? It's not like you're flying it outside. It's not an outright ban on 3D printers, but a proposed regulation that would require printers to include blocking technologies to stop them printing certain files like firearm parts. So there you go. It's not even a full ban on printers. So basically, they would have to prevent printers printing certain types of files. So you'd have to have some way of detecting what the file type was. How do you stop geometry? You'll have to use AI to detect. Yeah, look, it's nonsense. It won't happen. Yeah, look, it's people who don't understand technology trying to make regulations on technology. It ain't got it. What's my preferred slicer? Bamboo. I just use bamboo slicer. They'll need to stop me from printing and sending dino dicks to my neighbours. TPU. You can do multicolour TPU dino dicks now, remember, Joseph? I want to see a multicolour one, please. In TPU. Joseph has the U1 and it's working. And he's quite impressed. He did fuck it up. He did block it. The veins are being coloured as we speak. Yes, bamboo's orca slicer anyway, but it's bamboo slicer. Should I wait for 08? Definitely wait for 08. 08 is so last year. It's going to be 09. 09 is next. That's what will come in the next drone from DJI. Did I fly this weekend? Yes, I flew yesterday. I flew 6 times yesterday. Not today, it's been pissing down. Yeah. Congrats. Yeah, it was, Ray. Oh, yesterday was phenomenal here. We had a great day yesterday. Today was a shit show. But yesterday was okay. Right, I'm going to end this one there. Thank you for spending some time with me. Look after yourself. Please consider checking out the Patreon as well as buying me a coffee. Patreon especially. Big thank you to all of my Patreons. I want to try and make sure I always end the stream with this. Genuinely, all of the people here who donate on Patreon, everyone who does, it is more important than ever before. We would not be able to do this without your support. I really, really do appreciate it. Thank you to everyone who donates on the super chats and everything as well. Obviously, you're the second child, not the first child. The first child's more important, which is the Patreons. Look after yourself, stay safe, and I will speak to you soon.